Welcome attendees. We're just taking a minute to give everyone a chance to join in here. As you come in, there's a poll question open. So go ahead and fill out that poll to help us figure out what we can do better at the city here and learn a little bit about what you all have learned from this workshop so we can continue to improve. I'm Kyla. I'm with the City of Tacoma's Office of Environmental Policy and Sustainability, and I'm also an AmeriCorps member. So the 2 second poll questions that are being asked today are so that we can track our environmental education. And that's something that I'm required to report as an AmeriCorps member. So I really appreciate your responses there. It helps us improve too at the city if we can track how much people are learning at our events. It's very helpful information. So if you could just take a minute to answer those first couple of poll questions. Where do y'all hear about us? And how much do you feel like you already know about sustainable fashion? And how easy is it for you to make sustainable fashion choices? Today, we're going to hear from a fantastic panel, and want to thank Zakia, the Chaya Movement, for putting this panel together. It's going to be a really great event. We're looking forward to getting into this topic and discussing it more. And this is part of a special workshop series we're doing for Tacoma Earth Month. So this week is Sustainable Fashion Week of Tacoma Earth Month. It's also International Fashion Revolution Week. So that's something you can participate in too if you go to fashionrevolution.org. You can take a look at some of the actions they've got going on this week so that you can hold your brands responsible for their environmental and social impact. We've got a lot of really cool actions and resources, but we're going to be talking a little bit more about fashion here locally and what you can do. And again, for those who are just joining, if you could take that quick poll question. There's 3 questions just to get started. And we really appreciate those responses so we can continuously improve the city. If you want to know more about Tacoma Earth Month, you can go to cityoftacoma.org/Earth Month and see all the rest of the events that are coming up. We've got more events happening this weekend, with Earth Day being tomorrow. And we have events next week as well related to sustainable communities. So we'll be looking at that topic next week. And you can also find more workshops at cityoftacoma.org/workshops. And I'll put these links in the chat so you can all look at those too and get those links in a moment.
While we're waiting for people to get in, Kyla, you might want to just mention, or we could mention, the titles of what we're doing next week. And then I can also mention what's coming up in May, because we're still got a few people to get signed in here.
So yeah, next week on Wednesday, we're going to have a workshop with Tahoma Audubon, talking about how to make your garden more bird and pollinator friendly. And then on Friday, next Friday, not this Friday, we're going to have a workshop with Second Cycle here in Tacoma about biking, and we'll do a little demonstration on how to patch your bike tire and get your bike ready for Bike Month, which is in May. So right on the eve of Bike Month on April 30th, next Friday, we'll host that workshop. And that following Saturday, May 1st, to close out Earth Month, we have a workshop with the Tacoma Tool Library to talk about how to use their service and borrow tools. So borrowing instead of buying is a great way to reduce your environmental impact. It's also just a great way to save money. So you can learn more about the Tacoma Tool Library on Saturday, May 1st at 10:30 a.m.
And how to find them now, because they've moved. They have a bigger space. They're downtown by in part of the Tacoma Library. So they have more parking and they have more accessibility. And then in May, ongoing in May, we will be doing one on freezing foods with Hal Meng, who has done a lot in the area with providing foods for helping to teach people how to use canning equipment and do different kind of food processing. And they do a lot of work with providing food for the homeless or for low-income people. And then we will also be doing one in May on herbs, growing and processing herbs. And we will be doing one on native plants, what works well in the Northwest and what is native to our area. So that's what's coming up in May.
Yeah, thanks, Janda. So for those who are just coming in now, if you could take a moment to answer those introduction questions about how you heard about this workshop today, that poll that's open. Also, how much you feel like you already know about sustainable fashion and how easy it is for you to make sustainable fashion choices. I'm going to leave that open for just another 30 seconds to get those last responses, and then we'll dive right into our panel discussion today on sustainable fashion around the sound. All right. So thank you all so much for joining today. I'm going to take this screen share off now so you can see all of our faces and introduce you to our panel. So there we go. So first off, I want to thank Zakia at the Chaya Movement for putting this panel together, and I'll let her introduce the topic and introduce you to all of our panelists today.
Thank you. I am excited to just be a part of this conversation and to bring just some of my community and my sisters in this movement who have just kind of marched alongside me and been a part of the sustainable fashion movement around the sound. Again, I'm Zakia with the Chaya Movement, and I just want to thank you all attendees for also showing up tonight and just hearing this conversation and engaging in this conversation, and for those who are watching the playback as well. Just want to thank you. So I'll share a little bit about the Chaya Movement and then pass it and I'll just call on somebody to go next, and each of us can do that. So we can share just a little bit about who we are and what we do. So the Chaya Movement essentially is a for-profit entity. We focus on promoting sustainable fashion and selling sustainable fashion and recycled fashion as well. So we also curate vintage items and resell and restore those. And you can also find our items in local storefronts such as Sassafras and Restyle, who are both a part of this conversation online and at face-to-face events. I also have the goal of just empowering individuals to minimize their clothing and textile waste through education, recycling, upcycling, clothing swap events, and other donation resources. So just acting as a resource for that. And I will pass it on to Amy.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Yeah. My name's Amy Tipton, and I have a small clothing shop in Belltown, downtown Seattle. And we have all local designers. So it's something like more than 50 different designers that we sell there. In addition, we do have Sassafras Studios, where we have 6 brands that are just designed and made right there. So we also are very supportive of brands that use eco fabrics, dead stock vintage fabrics, and we're all about promoting sustainability and learning along the way too. Education is a big part, as you mentioned, Zakia. And that's it. So that's who I am. Happy to talk about it more throughout the discussion.
Kirsten.
Hi, I'm Kirsten Joy, and I am Restyle Clothing Company. So founder of 3 years ago at this moment. If you're watching this recording in the future, you know, it was a while ago. So here I am doing a new career. Decided that it would be fun to open a small business that was all about sustainable lifestyle choices and upcycling fashion. I've always been interested in fashion, never worked at a clothing store, so that was a whole new experience. But we encourage people of all genders and all size inclusivity of everybody. And we just say, what's your style? It's eclectic, it's unique. There's a lot of one-of-a-kind finds in here. And I just love watching people glow. So helping them find their style sometimes is kind of a real reward to having this business here.
And let's hear from the Conscious Cut. Let's start with Jaleesa.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jaleesa, and I am showing up here today as one half of the Conscious Cut podcast, which is a forum for myself and me, who will introduce herself next, to just talk about conscious life and conscious style as women of color who have worked in the fashion industry for quite some time. So very excited to be here today, talk to all of you about sustainable fashion, because that's my jam. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Let's hear from you, Nee.
Hi, I'm Nee, the other second half of the Conscious Cut co-host, and I'm also the owner of Saat Beauty. It's a small business here in the south of Seattle. Although I'm on a hiatus, my main focus of the business is to create new stories with secondhand pieces. And it's mostly home furnishings, accessories, and fashions. And what Amy, Zakia, Kirsten reiterated, I want to reiterate the same thing, that I kind of want to introduce a new set of customers to shop secondhand in a responsible way. So I hope to relaunch online to include products from independent makers and artisans. So ultimately, it'll be a lifestyle brand, which marries both new and secondhand goods.
Awesome. So the Conscious Cut, Nee and Jaleesa will be moderating the conversation. But before I pass it to them to take it away, I just want to go over a couple of things and just remind you as attendees that we do want you to engage in the conversation. So please use the chat to drop any questions or comments throughout the conversation, and we will be monitoring that. In addition, I want to remind you to stay till the end, because we are going to do a raffle for the attendees. So one of you will win a $100 gift certificate to one of our shops to be able to shop. And all attendees will also receive emailed to you our resource list. And we were able to get some vendors that were willing to
Looks like, Zakia, your connection dropped out there for a moment. Just give you a second to get that back up. But as Zakia was saying, there is a raffle at the very end. So hold out for that. We're going to do it after the Q&A and after the closing poll. And it's been very generously donated. And we'll have more information about that in a moment when Zakia rejoins us. All right, so just a reminder to drop your questions in the chat throughout the conversation. And if you want everyone in the chat to be able to see your message, you can change the 2 next to 2 in the chat. You can change who you're sending the message to, from panelists to all panelists and attendees, and then everyone will be able to see your question and comment. So you want to make sure that you have all panelists and attendees selected for sending out chat messages there. Of course, if you want it to just be seen by our panelists today, you can just select all panelists. So while Zakia is still struggling with internet, oh, now you're back. There you are.
Was that good timing or what?
Perfect timing. I'm going to disappear again and let you take over.
I don't know what was last heard, but I was trying to pass the mic to Nee and Jaleesa to start the conversation.
Yes, perfect. You dropped out just as you were saying the name of the sponsor for the gift card today.
Oh, so stay till the end for the raffle. The sponsor is Thrivent, who is offering a $100 gift card to one of the attendees. So just stay till the end. We'll do the raffle at the end. And I think that was all I had, actually. So I'm passing it to Jaleesa and Nee to start the conversation.
Great, thank you. We'll start right off with the first question. And this is to everyone on the panel. What inspired you to start your business? Let's start. Should we pick Amy?
Sure, no problem. I can talk about my business all day long, so you might have to stop me. So inspiration to open Sassafras. I was looking for a career change, and I was editing for many, many years. Kind of like Kirsten, I had never worked in a clothing shop before. I had never run a business before. But I went back to kind of my childhood inspirations. And my grandma was actually a garment worker, and she was on the line in the factory making clothes all day long. But what she instilled in me was a love of fabrics, textures, shapes, colors, because she had this giant sewing room at her house. And she taught me how to sew. She taught me how to sew with patterns. And I just got really creative in there. So that was when I was about 7 years old. And that love of fashion and fabrics continued throughout like high school, where I discovered the first thrift store. I grew up in Mississippi, so there weren't a lot of stores, okay? We had to drive 40 minutes to get there. And I was like, wow, look at this. I am so gonna upcycle all of this. So I had all the unique outfits. I would hand paint my jeans, you know, just like funky stuff. So that was my high school sewing experience. And so then with the career change, I was like, all right, I think I'm gonna go back to that, because I've been sewing my whole life. I started developing my own clothing line while I was still in my other career. So I wasn't sure if I wanted to be in retail. Like I'd never worked retail before. And I was like, how can I find out if it's right for me? So I started going to a bunch of the pop-up markets, and I was selling vintage clothing, and I was selling my own clothing right beside it. And my friend Carrie would go with me, and thank goodness she was there, because it was like a lot of schlepping things around, right? So we did this for probably about 9 months. And I was like, I love interacting with the customers. I love vintage fabrics. And then I loved actually meeting so many local makers. So that's how I discovered many of the makers that are sold in my shop today. And I noticed that, you know, a lot of them were kind of schlepping back and forth doing the pop-ups, and that they didn't really have a home for where to sell without moving it around all the time. So I kind of switched. Originally, my business plan was to do more like what the Shia movement's doing now, which was vintage fabrics or vintage clothing. So I thought vintage clothing in the store, but you can get alterations made right there. So that was the cool dream. But then when I met all of the local artists and designers, I decided to switch gears and make their home. So Sassafras now sells designs from about 50 local designers and jewelers. We make 6 in-house brands right there in the studios, which are right beneath the retail store. So you walk in, it's retail, and then there's a spiral staircase that goes down to an area that looks like Project Runway. I mean, it's this giant table, and everyone's cutting and sewing and sharing different tips, you know, for how to do this kind of armhole, that kind of armhole. And it's basically like a great party every day. And I love it there. But we still have incorporated, so while we also do trunk shows where we release, you know, the new designs that someone just made, you can talk directly with the designer, do some made to order items, or purchase right there. We still do pop-ups with vintage vendors, including the Shia movement a couple of times. And we do mending sessions. The last one was really fun, where we invited the public to just come bring their mending items, like whatever repairs they needed to make. And then we let them use our machines, our thread, our needles, and just like enjoy the space together. And learn from one another. And then we also have done a few clothing swaps there, and those are super fun. I cannot wait to do those again.
Thanks for sharing that story, Amy. We're glad to have you in the community.
I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for doing what you're doing. Guess we'll pass it on to Kirsten.
Great. Welcome back to Restyle. So my inspiration to start this 3 years ago was, like Amy, I just wasn't happy in my career, and I needed a big change. And so what I was doing as a hobby was, I was considered a picker. I would get the garments, bring them home, wash them, mend them, fix them up, make them beautiful again. And then I would take them to all the consignment stores and pick them up on a rotating schedule. That is kind of a hobby of a lot of people out there. So I started to realize, well, if I'm doing all this work and taking it to all these stores, maybe I could do that myself, right? So I ended up applying for a grant through the city of Tacoma and the chamber called SpaceWorks, and I went through their training. It was a 3-month entrepreneurship training, and it really shaped the business plan for Restyle. And of course, it has changed and morphed, and it will continue to change and morph. Right now, we're here on 6th Avenue in Tacoma, but you're going to always find us online at Restyle Clothing Company. So no matter what happens, we are definitely in the groove of change. That's why I started a business, because I wanted change. So really have embraced it. And I've always loved, I decided to tell you how much I loved the whole recycling thing, right? I'm going to even wear it on my garment. So that's how much I have dived into this whole upcycling fashion stuff. And I think it's just really great to be able to educate people around it, around brand education, garment care, how to launder things to make them last longer. And that's the lifestyle I choose. And I choose to exude that into what has become Restyle, which, maybe eventually it'll grow even bigger someday. So I just have really enjoyed the whole process of being a small business owner and being a part of the sustainable community in my own community here in Tacoma. I get to work, play, shop, eat, walk to work. So I just absolutely love that. My previous career was with community services and higher education. So it kind of made sense to locate in my community and educate about sustainability. It just kind of made sense. So there was a form of Restyle.
I can share. I want to be respectful of time, but the Chaya movement started essentially just with me and my passion for vintage and recycled fashion. It was my own lifestyle, my own way of shopping and styling and being fashionable in a unique way and creative way. I started upcycling as early as elementary school when I recreated a pair of jeans because I didn't like, looking like everybody else. And so that's just always been my style and my approach to fashion. And when I started thinking about ways to business ideas and things that I could do online to share my love for that, I landed on just selling vintage. And when I started that, it was just Chaya. Chaya is a Hebrew word. It stands for to sustain life, to keep alive, or to bring back to life. And so I thought that really represented what I was doing with fashion, with selling things that people had, no longer saw a value in or wanted. When I started, that's what it was. It was Chaya. The movement came later as I started researching fashion and the fashion industry and why people should buy resale. Why should people buy recycled fashion? What's the benefit to that? Because I honestly had no idea the other side of fashion. It was something that I blew my mind when that door was opened for me. And so the movement just became my desire to want to empower and educate and share the knowledge and the information that I was learning. Because if I didn't know, I was like, who else doesn't know this? And if I'm selling clothes, everyone needs to know. So I just felt it was my responsibility to also share and educate and empower alongside of selling. So making sure that people were conscious and not, just buying stuff to buy it. I really made it a point to make sure if you bought from me that you bought it because you wanted to wear it and you're going to take care of it and it's going to last, and and so that essentially was how the Chaya movement became the movement. It was started out as just Chaya and then grew into something else. So that's why we're here today. And I'm excited to be a part of this community. And we're small but mighty, but we're doing some work. So I'm glad.
Yeah, 100%. I echo that. And I'm sitting here like, oh, all of you women are so amazing and it's so inspiring. And I'm also very excited to be a part of this conversation. So I think I want to direct the next question, if I can, to Kirsten. Sustainability has become such a buzzword as of late. And I know you kind of touched on it a little bit with what you were saying about upcycling and recycling in your business, but how else would you define that word sustainability?
Such a large word, and it's so complicated, and dissecting it even is complicated, and nobody can do all of it. And so what I have decided to do is my piece, right? Everybody can have their piece. Everybody can do a small piece, and whatever that is, altogether, it's a larger ripple effect. So sustainability, man, it's like everything from the production and the marketing and the garment making, everything, right? The labor laws. And so all of that goes into what sustainability is. But really, my definition of sustainability is minimizing the environmental impact that you have, right? You as a human being, you as a community, you as a fill in the blank, just minimizing environmental impact. So do your thing, right? Do your one thing, and do your research, because there's so much out there that people could get interested in and involved in and awareness of. So my one little thing was fashion, right? So my actions are, every day I'm living and talking to people about wear what you own, right? Like you're going to come into resale. I'm going to say, sure, try that on. How does that feel? Do you like that? If you like that, you're going to wear it. You should get it. If it feels awkward or something, I'm talking people out of buying clothes all the time because I'm like, if it's awkward and you don't love it, I don't want you to have it because you're not going to wear it, right? So that's the number one thing. Wear what you own. So that is usually what I'm preaching. Besides buy used, that really is number one, right? Let's be real. So for Restyle Clothing Company, buying used is the most sustainable way to be fashionable, to buy fashion, to support, sustainable fashion, which is hard to define in itself as well. Sustainable fashion has so many multiple facets of that definition. We also encourage mending when things are broken, right? So I will actually, occasionally you'll find me with sewing needles in here, fixing something for somebody that brought it in because they wanted to match something. So we've had classes here that talk about all that too. We had fashion classes, and that was really fun too. When we were having classes, maybe we'll have to do them virtually in the future. Brought to you by Restyle Chaya, right? We'll do something. And then I also believe in repurposing. So there's so many different ways to repurpose, right? All the different textile, there's so many different things that you can do with clothes, with home decor, the things that come through my shop. But it's amazing what I then bundle and send to people that can utilize those things. You know, nonprofits get their usable clothing. The textiles go to this agency. We've got smaller ones with little local designers in the area where I say, here's all our ties. She makes tie scarves and tie tips and tie masks and tie, you know, all these upcycled garments out of the ties that come through here. So that's kind of a fun partnership too, because I'm connecting with local designers in the community. We've had a couple fashion shows for them, and Chaya has come and done pop-ups, and it's been real fun to partner with those locals in the neighborhood to be able to educate on everybody's option, which is minimizing environmental impact, right? So that's my thought on sustainability.
Thank you so much. I'm going to toss it over to you, Zakia. You talk about, you know, Chaya movement being educating and instilling, you know, this awareness and consciousness in consumers today. So how do you build transparency into your business to ensure that you're seeing the results and for your business?
I think transparency is so important, especially in the fashion industry, because I think that's kind of what's led to this movement, because there was such a lack of it. And as an entity that sells and makes products, I think transparency really just is me just communicating and sharing information, sharing the truth behind my products, the truth behind what I've learned, but also to being transparent in the fact that not everyone wants to buy resale. Not everyone wants to buy used. So being transparent and giving them options on what they can do, where they can shop, and how other brands they can call out to be transparent who are not. So, you know, there's the Remake World, you know, Ambassador program, but there's also an app that I refer people to if I'm not able to land on something that works for them, but they want to shop ethically and sustainably. Good on You is an app that I refer people to because it is an opportunity if, you know, I'm transparent in saying I don't know everything. I'm transparent in saying I'm still learning and growing. And I've been in this field since 2016 and I still have a lot to learn, you know? So I think that's also being honest and transparent, is letting people know, like, there's no perfect way to shop sustainably and to be sustainable. And but as Kirsten said, you know, if we're all doing our one thing, or if we're all focused on what's important to us, we can have that huge impact and huge effect on this movement and on the world. And so, like I said, Good on You app is where I refer people to when I'm like, hey, I can't land on anything. Here's a tool or a resource that you can use, and a way to look at the brands that maybe you shop from that you want to learn about, see where they are on the ethical spectrum and the sustainable spectrum, and see if you want to shop from them. And if not, they give you great alternatives. So I think for me, transparency is really just sharing what I know, and sharing what I don't know, and being open to learn and being open to grow, but also letting folks know I don't know it all, but when I do know, I'm gonna share it with you, and I'm gonna make sure you know, those in my sphere and in this community that want to engage with me in this way are going to also learn and kind of go on the journey with me. And so I think for me, that's in a business, how I can be most transparent, really making sure people know about the products that I sell and make, where they come from, as much as I can share. But then again, also communicating where I don't know and where I lack, and being able to share and be transparent with the resources that maybe I would use, that I can just go ahead and, you know, like each one teach one, you know, like if I win, if you win, we win. So let me just make sure I don't keep it all to myself. I want us all to do this walk together and to grow together. So that's how I'm transparent in my business. And I think that's why we have, you know, such a great community, because, you know, it's not me holding it to myself. It's, you know, if I win, we're all winning. And I feel that about everybody. So I'm going to pass and share the knowledge and be transparent as well. So that's how I approach it.
Right on. I love that, Zakia. We hear like, look at you offering that great customer service. So with that, though, I want to layer on to what Zakia kind of started with and direct this to Amy. What experience do you want your customers to have when they're shopping with you, whether they're new to your store or whether they're repeat customers?
Okay, I want it to be magical. And what I mean by that is that you can come into Sassafras, you've never been there before, you see many beautiful items, you don't know they're local, you don't know they're handmade, and then you touch the fabric and you know that it's eco fabric because it feels good, it's breathable, it feels good on your skin. And then you're kind of like shopping in the corner and you go, oh, what's downstairs? And it's like, oh, talk about transparency. That's where we're making your clothes, right there. So the experience is not just, you know, everything's beautiful and beautifully made. It actually is made to fit you too. So in my experience, like a size small is not the same as a size small, is not the same as a size small. Like everybody's got a different, slightly different shape. So back to wear what you have, Kirsten's point, we can customize these items for you. So let's say you find a red dress and you're like, I love the cut, love it so much, got a big booty, what should I do? And we go, oh, we can fix that for you. So we can either tailor it, make a fresh one, make a different color. And speaking of sizes, we can do all the way up to 6XL in some of the brands, which is awesome because it's hard to find still, which is crazy. And so I think that kind of experience of the ability to have designer one-on-one discussion about your body type, your your lifestyle and what you're looking for, that makes it magical. And then my favorite comment from someone who came into the shop for the first time was like, oh, wow, did you make all of this? And I was like, so excited that they were inspired by it, you know, the idea that I had made it all, but no, I did not make all of the things. It's made by many, many people, but people get, you know, creative and they're inspired to figure out, you know, oh, wow, how was this made? And then if it's a couple, usually the woman's like really interested in the dresses, right? We don't sell men's clothing. The guy's sitting on, you know, the guy couch that we provide in the dressing room. But then he has questions about like, how do the operations work? Like, how does this all pull together? So it's a multifaceted opportunity for educating people. And the fact is, like, fashion is not glamorous. It might look like it in the magazines and the videos and, you know, all the models look so sleek, but fashion is a lot of hard work. So it's not just, you know, looking good. It's all about the fit. It's the construction. It's the actual literal sewing process and then the design. I mean, some days I will go downstairs to the studio and I haven't been there for maybe a couple of days. And I'm like, wow, what did, you know, Stone Crow Designs just make? Because it's on the mannequin and it's brand new and I've never seen it before. And it's just amazing. So magical is the experience that I want people to have when they come shopping at Sassafras.
I just want to say something on that really quick, sorry, but I think that's the part when we think about fast fashion versus slow fashion, like that's missing, is that connection to where it comes from, how it's made, and to really appreciate the process, because that's exactly what fast fashion is not, right? So I do appreciate you sharing that, and to speak to that. Like, when I remember the first time I walked in Sassafras and it was just, so this was pre-Chaya, and I think they were pretty new. And I just remember having a conversation with my friend and saying, I don't know how I'm gonna be a part of this. I didn't know, I just knew there was a future with that store in some kind of way, because the experience was great. And it was great to like have that seed planted. So I do appreciate that something like Sassafras exists. It's an inspiration to me because it is where I see us going, but it is also the reality of what slow fashion is and what it looks like, because with fast fashion, that's what we've lost, is that real connection to the process and the connection to, the maker, right? And the fabric and, just that when you're disconnected, you really don't care about that. So I think, yeah, it helps. Thank you for that seed being planted in the folks that come into that store.
Thank you, Zakia. I was thinking about it on my way to this meeting that, people care where their food comes from. So I really don't see why they wouldn't care where their clothes are coming from. So it's interesting.
So on that note, this question is to everyone, and feel free to answer it and jump in anytime. What's the most valuable thing you've learned from your sustainability journey?
I can't answer this, I'm still talking here. I think the most interesting part is that people are either zero educated or they can be experts too. So the people who come into Sassafras can be like all over the place with their education, right? And then we have people who only wear eco fabrics, but they don't care who made them, right? They don't care if they were made in China, fast fashion. They just want to know, is it organic cotton? So there's all kinds of ways that people are looking at sustainability. And back to what Kirsten mentioned before, it's like such a big, broad topic that, whatever people want to do, like just do something, right? Take a step. If you want to do all cotton, great. It's, it's not going to ruin the oceans. Does take a lot of water. So like back to that, like each fabric has its own problem, right? I mean, wearing clothes we take a hit for making the fabric, but it's easy to do just a little bit of research. So I find I see every customer as an opportunity to educate them, but a lot of times they're educating me too.
I'll take that one. So most valuable lesson, I think, is been the fashion education of understanding how it's made, where it's made, how toxic it is. And then even just hammering home for me, the fact that used and thrifting and secondhand and upcycled has been like, that's the way that we can affect, fast fashion brands by not buying those things and buying the used. So that's been valuable to educate everybody that comes through my doors or comes to my online shop or whatever it is, to say, here's the story and here's why you're purchasing here, right? You're going to go buy at your local farmer's market fresh eggs from a farm. I like this. And so why not just know exactly, buy your clothes local too, and have the designer right down the street or get it tailored right at your shop, whatever it is. That's been my most valuable lesson, is that I have a voice in my own community and I can educate people on how to be more sustainable. And even if it's their one thing, right? Maybe it's not buying used fashion, maybe it's doing something else. So that's been my most valuable lesson.
I think my most valuable lesson was just really recognizing, I think similar to what Kirsten said, was that one person can have an impact and really do a lot to make change happen. But also I had to recognize that also I can't do it all as much as I would love to. And initially when I started, I was like, okay, I'm gonna pick up everybody's stuff and I'm gonna recycle it and I'm gonna sell clothes and I'm gonna help people consign and I'm gonna take it and drop it off for them at the consignment. I really, was really doing a lot. And I had to take a step back and recognize that that I can't do it all. And when we talk about sustainability, I want to keep going. You know, I don't want my business to fail or to end because I tried to do too much or I did too big, or you know, because you want your business to be sustainable too, right? So I had to take a step back and recognize that I can't do it all. And I think it also helped me recognize just how tremendous we are as a community. And I think we're stronger together. And I think that is what I've learned, is that I'm not in this alone, that I don't, again, like I said, I don't know it all, but me working and collaborating with Sassafras or collaborating with Restyle or reaching out to Big Brother, or reaching out to the city of Tacoma. I'm doing a swap with the city of Federal Way. You know, this is how we can make change happen, is recognizing that, you know, I do what I do. I love vintage and I'll sell vintage. I love upcycling and changing clothing. I can sell that. But also too, my lane is these type of things, getting people together and really educating and using other people to make that amplified and really make our voice bigger so we can have a further reach. And through recognizing that we're stronger together, I think that's really helped kind of catapult and propel these conversations, because I think, you know, like Amy said, there's people that know nothing still right now that know nothing about this conversation. So I think that's been the biggest lesson, is that we're stronger together and I can't do it all by myself.
Who is Zakia? I echo that so much. I relate to that. I want to add one thing also, if I may, that guilt, like don't feel guilty. That's the one most valuable thing that I've learned on my journey. Is, you know, the more armed you are with information and the more you know, then great. Don't like make yourself feel down about decisions that you've made in the past that may kind of add to this harmful thing that we call the fashion industry. It's just like when you know better, you do better, and just kind of like keep making small steps forward.
So good, Jaleesa. So true.
So I think if we have time, can we ask one more question, or should we open it up to questions?
Let's ask one more question, and then we'll go to Q&A.
Okay, so I think, what advice would you give to someone who is sitting right here in this meeting, not knowing anything about sustainability, sustainable fashion? What advice would you give them as they kind of go forward in their journey?
I can go first. I would say, you know, try to sew a dress. And the reason I say that is because anyone can do it. There's patterns out there, there's fabric out there, there might even be some donated fabric that you could find. You could cut something up and then sew it back together. But the reason I say that is because it requires skill, right? And so if you can sew a dress, just, you know, maybe it won't fit right, then maybe you think twice about that $5 t-shirt that you're going to buy from, you know, the mall, because somebody didn't get paid for that, didn't get paid enough for that. So it requires you to think about the whole process, and for you to value the actual garment itself, not just a new garment, any garment. So then you're, you know, thrift shopping and you're like, wow, look at the seams on that jacket, right? And you can wear it with pride, and you can actually check to see, is it durable? Is it going to last a long time? Do I really want this? Like, cherish it, right? So I think if you can, you know, just try to sew a dress, and then you'll learn so much just even from that. But then also like learn how to do the hand sewing, because just because you have a hole in your pants doesn't mean you can't wear them anymore. You just need to have a little lesson with the needle and thread, or take it to a dry cleaner. I mean, not that dry cleaners are doing the best job with the environment, but they do have every color thread. Have you noticed that? They have every color thread, so they can help you. I mean, sew on a button, repair your pants, do those repairs. Or chat with a designer might be an option. Like chat with, you know, if you ever want to talk to some of our designers or have a tour, or, you know, you have questions, we will set something up for you so you can talk about the whole process and even get more information about specific fabrics and the reason we choose those, what fabrics are good for what garments. And then the last piece of advice is the most fun thing ever, which is throw a clothing swap. Like, get together with your girlfriends and swap your clothes. And it's so fun to go home with like a bag of fresh stuff that I didn't have to buy. So that's great. Those are my tips.
I'll go with going in a sequence here. I like it. So, advice for furthering your journey. Well, first of all, buy secondhand if you're going to buy, right? Because the little mom and pop shops that pop up all over the place are always popping up all over the place. They may come and go. So I always tell people, when you're traveling, maybe you're looking for something for yourself, a little gift from the place. Look up the small little resale stores wherever you're at. Buy your little trinket or your gift for your mom because she was babysitting your kids or something, right? So make it a thing whenever you travel on a road trip or fly to a new place. They're all over the place and they're really fun to visit. So that would be my number one thing. And then I would also add, watch documentaries on fashion and understand Zakia, Chai Movement, and several other partners collaborated on that. Watch the true cost of fashion. We did a watch party for that. I'm sure you're going to drop that in the, yep, true cost. Yep, that one right there. And just educating yourself, right? Because we don't know everything. And so just continue to learn and continue to grow and don't have guilt. I like that. That was a great one, right? Do what you can, you know? So that would be my further advice.
Yes, I echo those. It's hard to add to that. I think you guys kind of took everything I would say, but I definitely am one who just starts at that. Just think about the hierarchy and think about the most sustainable thing you can do is starting in your closet. Before even stepping outside to buy anything. So, you know, looking at your closet, going through there, I would say for you to be sustainable, it really starts with you recognizing what's important to you. Like Kirsten said, there's many things when it comes to be sustainable. Like, do you care about the water usage? Do you care about the waste? Do you care about the ethical side and the production? So really finding what it is that matters to you most and letting that be your guide with how you shop. If you do decide to go out and buy new, if that's what you need to do, because I think that's the key, is really what you value most. And for all of us, it sounds like we all have different things, but just finding what works for you. And again, not feeling ashamed of what's already in your closet because you already bought it, you know, so now take care of it and make sure it lasts. But also, you know, finding what works for you as far as what you value when it comes to the sustainable and fashion movement, and letting that be your guide with how you move forward. Sustainability starts in your closet. You can rent things, you can borrow things, then you can buy, you know, so like making sure that you're also looking at other alternatives before even stepping out to go to a resale store or buying new. There are other steps you can do before that. So just making sure that everything in your closet works for you today. If it doesn't, then, you know, that's where you can start. And don't throw it away, just donate it or go to a Kirsten and consign it. So there are options, and just remind yourself that most textiles, you know, 99% are recyclable. So, you know, looking at alternatives, it can be saved, it can be recycled, it can be turned into something else if it's not wearable. So just being mindful of those things. And I think someone already said it, once you know, you can't and don't unknow. So now you know. So now what are you going to do with it? So we'll leave it at that. Do you have any other questions? And we'll open it up for Q&A. So we have a few minutes. I know we started late, so we'll probably run a little over. And then I want to make sure we do the raffle. But are there any questions that you want to drop in the chat or any comments? We'd love to hear from you. Thank you, Trudy. Too bad I can't see your face, but I know Trudy. Thank you for joining us. Does anyone have any comments or questions? If not, I want to make sure that I pass it to Kyla because I know she has something to end with as well before we do the raffle. No questions. All right. So I'm gonna get the names. I'm gonna get the names in a bowl here, my pretend bowl. It's really my finger going like. And if you didn't, Kirsten is modeling my glasses right now. Thank you. And they're available at Sassafras and at Restyle. Shout out, shout out. And there's a swap happening on May 15th. And there's a recycle event this Saturday, which Kyla will share. So I'll let you take it away and then I will get the names ready for the drawing.
Yeah, thanks so much, everyone. I loved hearing all your personal stories about how you've, come to your businesses and all your unique perspectives on what everyone can do to be more sustainable in their fashion choices. I like to take, I'm a waste person, so I like to take a waste prevention hierarchy approach. So we start with preventing, reducing, and all those things. So I liked what Zakia said there at the end about like, do what works for you, but starts with your closet too. So find new ways to wear the clothes you have and swap clothes with your friends, repurpose your clothes into new items, and then shopping secondhand and buying slow fashion items from local designers, I think is an amazing way to support our local businesses. I am just going to put up this screen real quick for our event that's coming up this Saturday. Zakia helped put this together as well, and it's our thread cycle event at the Tacoma Recycling Center. So this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. we're going to have Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Puget Sound at the Recycling Center to collect your donated textiles. They can be clothes, shoes, linens, bags, basically anything that is made out of fabric. Big Brothers, Big Sisters will accept, and anything that is still in usable condition will get donated, and anything that can no longer be worn or used in its current form will be recycled through the Thread Cycle program. So sometimes that means turning things like linens into rags that can be used in other industries, things like that. So everything does get reused in some way, repurposed, and it's going to be a great event this Saturday at the Tacoma Recycling Center. The address is written smaller at the bottom too, but it's pretty close. It's pretty central in Tacoma. I know from where I'm at on 6th Ave, it only takes me like 10 minutes to get there. It's on South Mullen Street down at the Tacoma Recycling Center and Landfill. We also have some resources here on the side. I put these in the chat at the beginning of the meeting, but if you want to learn more about Tacoma Earth Month, we've got our Earth Month calendar site up there. All these workshops are available at cityoftacoma.org/workshops as well. And you can watch you can watch this recorded event in about 2 weeks when it gets put up on YouTube. And you can go back and watch old workshops that have happened as well. So thanks everyone for this. And I'm just gonna launch our closing poll question too, right before we do the raffle. So those of you who are here, if you joined a little bit late and didn't answer these questions the first time, that is absolutely okay. I'm an AmeriCorps member, and part of my service requirement is to measure some environmental education. So at our outreach events, we ask these questions to get a sense of how much you've learned during the event. So now that you've attended this workshop, how much do you feel like you know about sustainable fashion? And how easy do you think it will be to make sustainable fashion choices going forward?
While that's going on, Kyla, let me add that if people are not sure where the recycle center is, if they go to the EnviroHouse website, the workshop page you just mentioned, cityoftacoma.org/workshops, in the right sidebar, there is a link to driving directions from the freeway, from Orchard, and from Tyler Streets. So there's some pretty complete directions there. You may want to plan that you may have to be in line a little bit. Don't give up, because this is the time of year when Tacoma residents can take their yard waste, their clippings when they're cleaning up their yard, they can take that in for free. So sometimes the lines get a little bit long, but just be patient because you get one of the first turnouts. And also I wanted to follow up, I did put in the chat, but the Tacoma Tool Library, who will be doing a workshop with us on a webinar on May 1st, they have sewing machines and other sewing supplies at the library that you can borrow if you don't have a sewing machine and you want to experiment with making something. So
Or repairing.
All right, are we ready?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and close this poll now. Pretty much everyone has responded.
Actually cut up little pieces of paper, and the name that I pulled, oh, you can't see, it's just a white piece of paper, is Hannah. Is Hannah still here? Hannah, that's the name that I pulled. I'll reach out to you via email and just confirm which vendor you want the gift card for. And that's another way to support a small business. So I'm so excited that Thrivent donated that. So that is all. That's all I have. So look out for emails from me, just with the full resource list and vendor discount codes. And of course, a thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for attending, and thank you for listening, and share. That's the best thing we can do. Share this information. Don't keep it to yourself. So once the link is up, please share it and let people know about this conversation. The True Cost documentary is a great resource if you haven't seen it. And we look forward, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge really quickly, there was one question about fast fashion and greenwashing. And I just wanted to say we had a workshop last week about conscious consumerism, and we touched a little bit about greenwashing in that workshop too. So probably by next week, that recording will be up on our YouTube channel, the City of Tacoma YouTube channel, under the EnviroHouse playlist, with just some easy tips on how to spot greenwashing. But I encourage everyone to watch True Cost. It also has a lot of information about the big fashion industry and problems there. So it might be useful as well. But if anyone wants to quickly add something, what I think is a great way is most businesses that are doing ethical and sustainable practices will let you know. So it'll be really in your face. This is what we're doing. We're very proud of what we're doing, and we're very transparent, as Zakia was talking about earlier, about what we're able to do and all those kinds of things.
Very true. Thank you, Kyla. The brands where you can't find where stuff is made and they're not showing any information. I know I went to a couple sites, like, where are you manufacturing? Where is this? Who are you? Yeah, those are the ones you got to question. Good on You app. So I did share that, and that's it. So use that as a reference tool as well. So thank you for the added piece. That's huge. Thanks, everybody.